Isn't that beautiful? What a way to start the service. Good morning and welcome. Today at All Souls Unitarian Church of Indianapolis, we are meeting by Zoom. I'm Crystal Francis and will be serving as the worship associate for today's service. Together with Sarah Cannon, Director of Children and Community Programming, and Reverend Katie Romano Griffin, our senior minister, we are your worship team. Our pronouns are she, her, Asia. Love is the spirit of all souls. If you're visiting this morning, you've tried really hard to find us, and I'm grateful. I'm glad you're with us. Please let us know in the chat if you are visiting. We welcome you and invite you to bring your whole self as you join us in worship. And please know that if you would like some extra support for this life's journey, our caring team is an extension of the ministry team and is here to support you. You can reach the team by calling All Souls and leaving a message, or by email at pastoralcare@allsoulsindy.org. Our Soul Matters theme this morning is love. Check in the know to get the packet. It's in the upper left-hand corner. So you can engage with the materials at home or at All Souls in person and online. In lieu of coffee hour, please join us in the chat room after today's service. Reverend Katie.
Thank you so much, Crystal. It is good to be together today, resilient people. I'd like to remind you that for a better Zoom experience, if you check out your screen up in your right-hand corner, there's an option to select your speaker view, and you want to make sure that you are on speaker view so that you can see those of us who are speaking or playing piano today in a larger frame versus seeing us in the Brady Bunch squares, which is they call that gallery view, but it will forever be in my mind as Brady Bunch squares. I also invite you to please remain muted unless you are a part of the worship team today. This is a different kind of service today, not just because we're on Zoom, but because we are celebrating the pagan holiday of Imbolc. And if you haven't already brought with you a plant, I brought this plant with me today. Or if you haven't brought with you a stone or something else that reminds you that you are indeed of the earth and forever connected to the earth, I invite you to do so when we are greeting each other in the chat. For now, in this moment of our shared journey, may you feel witnessed and honored wherever you are on that journey. May you remember that whether you are here for the first time or the thousandth, whomever you are, whomever you love, whatever your ability, gender, beliefs, political affiliation, or documentation status, you are welcome here in our virtual space and in our physical space. And know that you are not alone. So let us now greet our neighbors, especially our new or returning people in the chat.
Good morning.
No, you're muted.
No, I'm not.
You're supposed to be muted. Down there at the bottom.
No, I can't do that.
In this moment, we call in our ancestors with these words by the Reverend Tania Marquez, which we will share in both English and in Spanish. From the heights of the Andes, the jungle and the desert, from the depth of the sea, from a time that was, from a time that stretches beyond our memory, we are called. Our history stretched back to the first people, the first steps, the collision of worlds, to abrupt beginnings, all wanderers of this land. We have inherited the unfinished labor of our ancestors, of those that came before us. We are called to continue the work.
De las alturas de los Andes, la selva y el desierto, de las profundidades del mar, de un tiempo que fue, de un tiempo que va más allá de nuestra memoria, somos llamados. Nuestras historias llegan hasta los primeros pueblos, los primeros pasos, el choque de mundos, a comienzos abruptos. Todos somos nómadas de esta tierra. Hemos heredado el trabajo inconcluso de nuestros antepasados, de los que vinieron antes que nosotros. Somos llamados a continuar la labor.
Las voces de nuestra gente nos llaman ahora. El mundo alberga sus alegrías y tristezas. Escuchamos el clamor de nuestra gente, haciendo justicia en ese llamado. Reconocemos las voces de quienes deambulan en el desierto, los cruzadores de fronteras, los navegantes, los buscadores de justicia, los soñadores y los esperanzados. Dejemos nuestra historia con la historia de nuestros antepasados, aquí y ahora. Estamos en el centro de responder y a este llamado que llega de todos los rincones de esta tierra, del sur, del norte, del este y oeste. Estamos llamados a sostener la labor.
The voices of our people call us now. The world harbors their joys and their sorrows. We hear the cries of our people demanding justice. In that call, we recognize the voices of those who wander in the desert, the border crossers, the navigators, the justice seekers, the dreamers, and the hopeful. We weave our story to the story of our ancestors right here, right now. We are in the midst of responding to the call that comes from all the corners of this land, from the south, the north, the east, and the west. We are called to sustain the work.
The voices of those who will be call us, a reminder of who we need to be. In the weaving of our story to the web of life, we must remember that we must not cut the strings, for there are others coming after us, others with tender hearts and strong wills, with creative determination, those who will live in the house of tomorrow. Their vision escapes us. Yet we are called to prepare the road, to leave behind possibilities and foundations upon which they'll build a better tomorrow. We are called to create new opportunities.
Las voces de los que serán nos llaman, un recordatorio de quienes debemos ser. En el tejer de nuestra historia a la red de la vida, debemos recordar, no recortar los hilos, pues habrá otros que vienen después. Otros con corazones generosos y fuertes voluntades, con determinación creativa, que los vivirán en la casa de mañana. Su visión se nos escapa. Aún así, somos llamados a preparar el camino, a dejar posibilidad como legado y cimientos sobre los cuales construyan un mejor mañana. somos llamados a crear oportunidades.
Toma un respiro. Take a breath. Please breathe as we continue to invoke the elements with these adapted words by Starhawk. By the earth that is her body.
By the air that is her breath.
By the fire of her bright spirit.
By the living waters of her womb.
We invoke the goddess of creation who stirs the seeds of hope and possibility for more good, more abundance, and more justice in our deeper selves. And we welcome her and the elements into this circle of love and trust, this sacred sanctuary that need not have walls. Our time together today harms none, yet helps all. And I declare this circle as sealed. So mote it be. Come, let us worship.
The ritual of lighting our chalice reminds us to continually renew our promise to live into our covenant, to put love into action, and to live out the community of love and justice we aim to be. Please share where you are lighting your chalice from in the chat, and show your chalices on your screen if you feel moved to do so, as we say these adapted chalice lighting words from James Villa Blake, the same words we have spoken since 1903. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. This is our covenant.
February 2nd, Groundhog's Day, is a minor holiday in my book. Candlemas and Imbolc are new to me, although both are tied to the February 2nd date too. The three holidays mark halfway point between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. They all speak to the emergence of the dark of winter to the light of spring. Who wouldn't support the idea of a celebratory midwinter's holiday? It feels like a good time to celebrate the coming of light and new beginnings. I was at the grocery store on a totally gray day following the December holidays, and I impulsively bought a tablecloth on clearance. It has gingham squares, a gingham square pattern in large pink blocks with white. And while working on this reflection, I put the new pink tablecloth on the dining room table. As I sat at the table glowing in pink, it occurs to me why I made my impulse purchase. It turns out that the pink tablecloth makes me happy here in the middle of winter. It is hopeful, even life-affirming. The pink color reminds me of spring and new life. And anyone who knows me knows I am not a pink girl, but I really like this tablecloth. As holidays go, it's a good idea to bring something hopeful to the midwinter days. I often feel left down after the flurry of December with its decorations, feasting, and family gatherings. Frankly, I have never been all that excited about Groundhog's Day. It has become a joke. I can never remember if it's seeing a shadow that is the harbinger of spring or not seeing a shadow. After all, it's always about 6 weeks, either way it goes. I found groundhogs not to be all that reliable. Candlemas and Imbolc involved less guessing. They promote that light-filled hope that can dim during winter's short days and long nights. They focus on the certainty that the light of new life comes. We can all benefit from a good dose of Candlemas and Imbolc.
I have to say, It always makes me very happy to think of the little church we used to attend in upstate New York, who had an entire Groundhog Day service annually in the round, complete with groundhog madrigals. But today we celebrate Imbolc, which is the very earliest of the spring festivals. And I know, I can hear you saying in your head, it sure doesn't look like spring around here. And you're right. But in many places around the world, baby lambs are beginning to be born. And if you've been watching, you've noticed that the days are longer than they were at the winter solstice in December. So spring is indeed coming. This makes me so joyful that I don't have big enough words to express it. Spring means gardening, and there's pretty much no place I love more than my garden. We can't grow many things outside right now, not unless they are cold hardy plants that are carefully buried in straw or hay or covered with cold frames to let in the sun and keep out the bitter winds of winter. But if you want a beautiful green summer garden, now is the time to begin. Now is the time to tuck seeds into dirt-filled seed trays and put them on windowsills. Now is the time to check that soil every day for the first little sign of green sprouts. Now is the time to experience the mystery and wonder of our first source. And those of you who are gardeners already know this, because all the way back at the winter solstice, the longest, darkest night of the year, something magical began appearing in your mailbox. Seed catalogs. If you've ever looked at a seed catalog, you know how amazing it is to see dozens of kinds of tomatoes, red, but also green or purple or yellow or even striped. You might know what it's like to grow up eating Midwestern sweet corn with butter on it, and to realize one day that cornmeal and masa flour come from a totally different kind of corn, and blue corn chips come from blue corn, and you can grow popcorn at your very own house. When I figured that out, I was hooked. And now I grow a lot of things at my very own house. This year, I grew butternut squash. I gave one to Reverend Katie, as a matter of fact. I grow fruits, herbs, vegetables, and we even keep chickens for eggs right here in the middle of the city. Nasreen and Elias's whole front yard is vegetables and flowers. If you grow food at your house, put what you grow in the chat. But you know what's interesting? You know what people say most often when they walk past my house and they look at my gardens? They say, oh, my grandfather used to grow strawberries, or, oh, my grandmother always had sunflowers. They say it just like that, in a little sad voice, like gardening belongs to the distant past. Let me tell you something, you use. It doesn't. It can't. Gardens are one of the most important places where the battles for justice are fought. We all need to eat, right? We're having online service today, so some of you might be eating now. But most of us get all of our food at the grocery store, and we don't really have to think about where it comes from. Here's the problem, though. If we don't know how to grow food ourselves, if we've lost those skills, then we are totally dependent on other people to do that for us, even if the way they farm uses chemicals that are hurting the earth. Even if they grow one kind of potato over and over and over, even though there are 1,000 kinds of potatoes in the world. Would somebody please explain in the chat why we don't want to grow only one kind of potato forever, please? Because I'm positive one of you knows. And it matters, because just as one example, 70% of the potatoes grown in this country are one kind, russet. It's dangerous, and it's also boring. Thank you for people who already pointed that out in the chat. There are also companies that are engineering plants so that the seeds you harvest from them won't grow. Those companies want you to have to buy new seeds from them every year. But gardeners usually save seeds from the very best tomatoes and peppers and beans that they grow. And over time, those veggies become experts at growing in that garden. Saving seeds is really important because having all those different ones that are adapted to grow in different places means that no matter what happens with the weather or the climate or pests or diseases, there's some plant somewhere that can handle it. So when we know how to grow food ourselves, we have more choices. But also sometimes gardening is the only reason some of us get to eat that food at all. Who here knows what a food desert is? Let's see some hands. Drop it in the chat if you know. Allison knows. More than 1 in 10 people in this country live in food deserts. There might be a dollar store nearby, but as many of you know, even when the stuff in the dollar store looks like food, it's mostly empty calories. And I want to make sure everyone remembers that this doesn't just happen in cities. You can live in the country and still be in a food desert because most people there don't work as farmers anymore. They might live on farmable land, but they work someplace else. And just like the folks who walk past my house, a lot of them never learned these skills. Even if you don't live in a food desert, you might buy the kind of food people get at the dollar store because money is tight in your home. And that kind of food can be a lot cheaper than fruits and veggies. You can grow fruits and veggies for less money than it would cost to buy them, but not if you don't know how, or if you don't have a yard where you can learn. There are definitely people within 15 minutes of our church who are having this struggle right now. And all of this, it's why the seed library in the makerspace and the community garden at All Souls are so important, because anybody can get seeds from us or sign up from a garden bed. And we have a huge variety of seeds. Some of y'all have looked in those drawers. We can share skills. We can share vegetables. You kids in faith formation remember how Mike and Jan O'Rourke shared their cucumbers with us? How many tomatoes and peppers we picked? And you know what else I remember? I remember that after all of that picking, we still had a lot of veggies to share with Food Not Bombs. And even after that, there were more that I picked and shared with others. And I want to make one thing very clear. Even if we are flush with cash, even if we can get all the food we want, not just at the grocery store, but at the bougie grocery store, we need to get involved with the seed library and the garden. We need to put our hands in the dirt. Parents and guardians, I'm going to talk straight to you for a second. Your kids are getting educated every day in academic subjects that may not have anything to do with the career they choose when they grow up. But they're not going to understand why those other fields matter if they don't have at least a passing understanding of what's involved. And justice work is like that too. If we're really interested in building the beloved community, and we're fully aware that the beloved community is not a gated neighborhood, then UUs need to raise servant leaders who have direct experiences that make them useful neighbors, allies, and community members. In times of trouble, the resilience of our community as a whole, not the Lawrence community or the Greenwood community, but the whole community is impacted by our own resilience or lack thereof. And I'm not talking merely or even mostly about financial resilience. I'm talking about shared community practices of resilience. So this Imbolc, it's time. It's time to tuck seeds into the soil and then gently wake them up. It's time to plant some in the community garden and others at our homes. It's time to swap skills, swap starts, and leave zucchini on each other's porches. Once, I told a gardening friend that I had harvested potatoes out of my yard for the first time ever and made my kids homemade French fries. She said, "Don't you feel like you just invented potatoes?" And I did. I really, really did. So come invent potatoes with us, and happy Imbolc.
Thank you so much, Liz. That was wonderful. I almost felt like I could be dancing in a garden as I was listening to those notes. Please join me with wherever your hearts are at in this circle of love and trust and hope and caring as we hold together the joys and the sorrows of this community. As a joy, I would like for you to collectively celebrate with me, Laura Snyder and family, welcoming of new baby Emmett. They welcomed baby Emmett to the world on February 2nd. Isn't that exciting? And we also have a sorrow in our community as we hold in our hearts Ollie and Barb as Ollie recovers from IU health. But the joy is Ollie is also with us today via Zoom. So some love, if you can pour it in to the chat for the Snyders and for Ollie. And if there's a joy or a sorrow on your heart, or maybe if you are present to the anniversary of the loss of a loved one, or if you have lost a loved one, or maybe your heart is just hurting this week, please do mention that in the chat so that we may hold you as I share this blessing with you from the Reverend Kirsten Homblett Allen. She shared this earlier this week as part of the 30 Days of Love packet, and I want to bring her words forward. She stated, and please do let this blessing just wash through you. She stated, I'm honored to offer you a blessing today, a blessing for healing. Maybe your spirit just went, yes, I need that blessing. Well, this blessing is for you. Or maybe your mind just went, I'm curious about what she means by healing. This blessing is for you. Maybe your soul was like, well, I'm feeling just fine. I'm not sure what I need to heal from. This blessing is also for you. So I invite you into a posture in which you are comfortable so that you can receive. Maybe this is by turning up your hands in a gesture of openness. Maybe this is by rolling your shoulders back and opening your chest just a little bit. Maybe this is by closing your eyes and bowing your head. Whatever might work for you to receive a blessing as I'm speaking, so you can imagine the words and their energies, this blessing flowing over you like a gentle wind or a slow moving tide. She continues. For when we are fearful, for when our fear is justified in a racist, homophobic, sexist, xenophobic, violent culture, and when our fear is misguided, motivated by stereotypes, myths, and lies from those who benefit from our division, for when we let our fear direct our decision-making, our actions, our politics, instead of our love, bless us all. May we turn toward connection, mutual support, and courage. May the knowledge that we belong to each other be healing. For when we try to do the next right thing, and for when we are unable to do the right thing, even when we want to. For when it's really unclear what the right thing is, and for when there is no right thing at all. Bless us. May you remember that you are not the worst thing you've ever done. May we remember that none of us are the worst thing we've ever done. May this reminder of our inherent worthiness be healing. For when our minds strive to control other people, to control situations, to control outcomes, for when our need to control surpasses our need to connect, to be in relationship, for when this need to control becomes dangerous for others, bless us all. May we know the peace of letting go of the need to control, the peace of surrendering. May the simplicity of just worrying about our own selves be healing. For when we feel angry and vengeful, for when harm has happened and we don't know how to stop hurting, for when punishment feels like the easy answer, when what we really need is accountability. Bless us all. May we learn the skills of reconciliation and practices of restoration. May the warm winds of freedom and a vision of collective liberation healing. For when we have everything and many have nothing, for when the scales of want and need are dangerously imbalanced, for when taking from one is a crime, but taking from many is business as usual, bless us all. May we resist the compulsion to hoard and the narrative of scarcity that surrounds us. May the assurance that in community we have all that we need, may that be healing. This blessing is for you. May this blessing be the healing. May it be so. Amen. And blessed be. There is a healing going on because it has been quite a week, hasn't it? You're welcome to go ahead and shout out in the chat about how the week has been for you. Has it been good? Has it been fair? Has it been hard? Have the emails that you've been receiving from me related to our security concerns at the building and our time here in Zoom, has that been disconcerting? Has it been hard? Has it generated fear? Has it created a possibility for healing that never existed before? Go ahead and shout it out in the chat. I've been reflecting on Imbolc and how this particular time and the meaning of this time is also relevant to what's happening in the life of our church. So for some pagans, Imbolc is when we acknowledge the stirring of the seeds under the earth. So when we look out our windows or when we move outside, we might see that the earth is frozen. It might look like there is no end in sight to this thing called winter. And yet, the days are getting longer, as Sarah mentioned. And yet, also, underneath the earth, those seeds are stirring. Soon, resilient daffodils, irises, they're going to start making their journey from their bulbs up through the earth, unapologetically pushing through layers of frozen earth and sometimes snow to show their true colors. Mythologically, for some pagans, we look to stories that talk about the goddess Flora and her taking over the mantle of this time of year and dancing through fields, gracing them with flowers. For some of us, Persephone is rising from the underworld and bringing spring with her. Maybe you know another story. Maybe you know another story about the returning of spring and the promise of hope, of all of those bursting colors that we have probably really missed this winter. And with all of their gloriousness, how that will bring us hope. This week, while we talk about gun violence each week, while we talk about things that happen in other parts of the country and in the world, where we know that religious communities have felt threatened and been threatened and had experiences of violence in their spaces, we know that, we talk about it, we have compassion, and we might bring people into our prayers. And we might tangentially think, ooh, but it wasn't us this week. It wasn't us this week. And then because we are human beings and we have coping mechanisms, we do something that theologian Sharon Welch talks about. We move into a place called cultural despair, right? There's so much of what we're seeing in the world that when it's not us, sometimes we lose the ability to continue to fight things and we retreat into a place of not us. So I can file that away for another day. Well, this week we became aware that even our community can be affected by this violent world that we live in. But just like there's that seed under the earth that is amidst the cold, the bleakness, the violence of the world, that it is somehow cradled in this energetic experience of the Mother Earth, we too are held together by something. We are held together by a larger love. And this week, we drew nourishment from that larger love. What fed the seeds that are our community were clear communication, love, a commitment to support. Those of you who have your keychains from when we did the backpack and book bag blessing, you'll notice that it says on that keychain, "We've got your back." And that is what our resilient community has embodied this week. We have got each other's backs. We are loving, hopeful, resilient people. And I want to share a poem with you by artist and musician Rob Grad, who is a friend of mine. And I will say it has a slight swear word in it. But in reading this poem, it makes me think of our community. And it makes me reflect on this week. Rob says, "I keep thinking, if I keep thinking, I'll figure it out. If I think long enough, hard enough, deep enough, I'll get the answer. But no matter how many thoughts I think, it keeps changing until I don't even know what it is anymore. My life is unfigurable. Earth ain't for the faint of heart. You gotta flow with it or it'll fight you to the death. And it's not a fair fight. I mean, think about it. Who's gonna lose? I'll give you a hint. Not life. The most delicate flower is still a badass. It sucks food from the rude stares at the sun and basks in it. It wrestles the wind and drinks the rain. It even looks good old and it dies without apologizing. There's a lot to learn from a flower. You can't help but be beautiful because it's what you are. Mi gente, comunidad, this community. Our spirit is love and beauty itself. So I invite you, if you haven't been holding that rock, or if you haven't been looking at your plants, I invite you to do so now. Maybe breathe in the scent of the soil. Allow your breath to connect you to that larger love. Maybe sink your fingers into the earth, because yes, indeed, those microbes are made to make us happy when we put our hands in the sand. Everything we need in this world has been gifted to us by Mother Earth. And when we take time to reflect and be with her, to be with the earth itself, it reconnects us to that larger love, to creation itself. It pulls us away from the distractions of the world that tell us that we must do more, be more, that we're not enough, that we have to purchase more. And it brings us back to something basic and holy. Now, I bet what you're holding has a story. Maybe it's a rock that you found or that you were gifted. This plant was gifted to me by my son and his girlfriend, and it was a seedling that has made it from Leah Marie, Nicholas's girlfriend, Leah Marie, her grandma Amelia from South America. It came to me in a tissue box with just a little bit of soil that they had made into a vase. It has come with me from Maryland and continues to grow and sprout in defiance of the fact that I am not historically good with plants. And maybe your history is that you haven't been good with plants. But you know what this time of year brings? It is an opportunity for us to try something new, to be in the energy of possibility, even in the midst of that which is cold and frozen, to think about new ways of being and let it burst out of us so we can stare straight into the sun, grow old without apologizing, so that we can be the brightness that is so desperately needed in this world. Brightness that is not born out of something easy, but brightness that has been formed by challenge, by strife, by gentle rains, and also by fierce winds. Yes, we are made for this moment. And we are blooming, even though we can't quite always notice it. As we go through this time of growing and changing, know that we are not in this process of growing and changing alone. We are in it together. And as we begin to continue to turn our attention spiritually to what this time can mean to us, let us also remember that the land we are on is made for justice. It is a justice-making space, our garden. It is also a spiritual space. It is a space that can heal our bodies and our minds when we sink our fingers into that microbe-rich soil. We can build a place where there is more than enough food for everyone in our community, and we can share it with the larger community. So I invite you to contemplate the many possibilities that can spring from this moment in time. And as you contemplate them, remember that we are in this together. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be.
Each week, we gather together to align our values. We give to support the missions and ministries of our congregation and share half of our weekly offering with an organization whose values align with ours. This week, we are donating to the UU Service Committee. This organization provides leadership and resources to the UU community and its congregations on issues such as climate justice, voting rights, reproductive justice, decriminalization justice, and LGBTQIA+ justice. To contribute, you can go to the All Souls homepage at allsoulsnd.org. At the very top, you can find the Donate tab. Beneath the description of today's service, you will also find a link that says Give to All Souls here. Please indicate if your gift is a pledge payment or if it is for Share the Plate, if you're paying online. And you can always, well, at least for the foreseeable future, mail your contribution to All Souls. Thank you for your generosity in supporting the mission of All Souls and for your continued love for one another and for this world. Take this moment to offer your gift.
That was lovely. Let us now release the elements gathered here. We release them to their homes, in our world, in our bodies, taking the awareness of their gifts into our day and into the coming weeks. Let us be present to that still small voice within us that is a piece of the holy, or it is simply that part of us that we are born with that remains untouched by the world, even when the rest of us continues to grow within it. I now declare this circle as open yet unbroken for the love, trust, hope, and all that was created here today also moves forward with us to help all and harm none. And so it is. Amen and blessed be. Please remain with us For the postlude, we will move into breakout rooms after the postlude, and those who would like to have a conversation with me, just don't go into a breakout room and just hang in the main space. Thank you so much. Woo! Wow.